So another round of peace talks with many of the same familiar faces. So what do the next generation think of the prospects for peace? Well, joining me from Jerusalem is an Israeli MBA student, Ran Bar Yofashat, and from Ramallah, a young Palestinian activist, Wasim Masri. And Ran Bar Yofashat, let me come to you first of all. Optimist or skeptic?
Well, look, John, every single Israeli that I know wants peace. The question is how to achieve this peace. I find it very strange that we had to release 104 terrorists in order to go back into the negotiation table. But I'm sure every Israeli, even if there's the slightest chance to achieve peace, we will make the effort, we'll go the extra mile, because if we're not talking, then we're definitely not going to go anywhere.
When you say that everyone you know wants peace, do you move in a kind of narrow circle? I mean, I wonder whether the settlers who are busy building out on the West Bank, they're thinking, what I want is a durable peace, when they know that probably they're going to have to abandon their settlements as the price of that.
Well, with all the respect, and I understand it's a very controversial issue, the less than 2% of Jews living in Judea and Samaria, but if our resistance is building, then I think we're talking about something else. Israel has made significant efforts in the past. Israel gave Sinai, which is more than twice the size of Israel today, in order to achieve peace. So I don't think that's the main issue.
Okay, Wasim, let me come to you and ask you the same question. Skeptic or optimist?
I would say both.
Right, okay. That's a very quick answer. Explain why you're skeptical. Explain why you've got a bit of optimism.
I've learned to be optimist about everything, especially being a young political activist. I'm actually married, I have 2 daughters, and I'm looking forward to a brighter future and an independent state. So this is why I learned to be optimist. But when I see the Israeli expansion of settlements in the West Bank, I could understand where the skepticism comes from. And one other reason for me to be skeptic is the fact that the Palestinian leadership haven't addressed the negotiation in general to the Palestinian public. I think they should. I think it's very important to say why this is a golden opportunity for peace, and then the conflict, and then the occupation, and building the Palestinian state.
Yeah, because there was a feeling, you know, if you go back in history, that one of the failures last time was that Yasser Arafat had not prepared the Palestinian people for the sort of deal that might be on the table.
I think the compromises that the leadership on both sides need to start talking about the compromises that needs to be made. But I could understand why the Palestinian public are being more skeptic, especially in terms of the expansion of settlements in the West Bank.
I tell you what, I just want to stop you both for a moment, because I'm being told that John Kerry has just started speaking in Washington. We'll have a little listen to that, and we're going to come back to you.
And to avoid its many pitfalls, we'll be very fortunate to have on our team, on a day-to-day basis, working with the parties, wherever they are negotiating, a seasoned American diplomat, Ambassador Martin Indyk, who has agreed to take on this critical task at this crucial time as the U.S. Special Envoy for Israeli-Palestinian negotiations. Assisting Martin will be as his deputy and as a senior advisor to me will be Frank Lowenstein, who has been working with me on this process from the beginning. In his memoir about the peace process, Ambassador Indyk quotes a poem by Samuel Coleridge that begins, "If men could learn from history what lessons it would teach us." Ambassador Indyk brings to this challenge his deep appreciation for the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And from his service under President Clinton, Secretary Christopher, and Secretary Albright, he brings a deep appreciation for the art of U.S. diplomacy in the Middle East. That experience has earned Ambassador Indyk the respect of both sides, and they know that he has made the cause of peace his life mission. He knows what has worked, and he knows what hasn't worked. And he knows how important it is to get this right. Ambassador Indyk is realist. Palestinian peace will not come easily, and it will not happen overnight. But he also understands that there is now a path forward, and we must follow that path with urgency. He understands that to ensure that lives are not needlessly lost, we have to ensure that opportunities are not needlessly lost. And he shares my belief that if the leaders on both sides continue to show strong leadership and a willingness to make those tough choices and a willingness to reasonably compromise, then peace is possible. So, Martin, I'm grateful that you've agreed to take a leave from your post at the Brookings Institution to serve once again in this most important role, and I know that you are eager to get to work, as am I. Martin. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Secretary, thank you very much for that generous introduction and for vesting in me such important responsibilities. I am deeply honoured to serve you and to serve President Obama in your noble endeavour to achieve Israeli-Palestinian peace. The fact that later today Israeli and Palestinian negotiators will sit down in this building to resume final status negotiations after a 3-year hiatus is testament to your extraordinary, tireless efforts, backed by President Obama, to try to resolve this intractable conflict. President Obama made the case so eloquently in his historic speech in Jerusalem in March of this year, when he argued to an audience of young Israelis that, quote, peace is necessary, peace is just, and peace is possible. And you, Mr. Secretary, have proven him right. You've shown that it can be done. I couldn't agree more with President Obama. It's been my conviction for 40 years that peace is possible, since I experienced the agony of the 1973 Yom Kippur War as a student in Jerusalem. In those dark days, I witnessed firsthand how one of your predecessors, Henry Kissinger, brokered a ceasefire that ended the war and paved the way for peace between Israel and Egypt. Because of your confidence that it could be done, you took up the challenge when most people thought you were on a mission impossible. And backed by the President, you drove the effort with persistence, patience, and creativity. As a result, today, Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Mahmoud Abbas have made the tough decisions required to come back to the negotiating table. I'm therefore deeply grateful to you and to President Obama for entrusting me with the mission of helping you take this breakthrough and turn it into a full-fledged Israeli-Palestinian peace agreement. It is a daunting...
US Ambassador Martin Indyk there, the US Middle East peace envoy just appointed by Secretary of State John Kerry. In Jerusalem, we were talking a moment ago to Israeli MBA student Ran Bar Yoshafat and from Ramallah, Wasim Masri. Well, I mean, we've heard some very positive language there in Washington. I'm sorry to break in, but it was important we got those messages. Rand, does it make you feel kind of a bit more optimistic that there is some real serious political heft behind this now?
Well, I think that the best thing to do is to let both sides come to the table and talk, because I don't really see any other way to have peace between two sides. But I do want to mention one thing, if that's okay. I really don't see the settlements as the issue. Otherwise, we would have solved this conflict a long time ago. The issue is the other side willing to recognize Israel's right to exist? But you know, John, my grandma always tells me, if you live in the Middle East, you have to be optimistic. So I don't see any other chance. We have to come to the table, we have to talk, to meet the other side, same for the people, and that'll be the first step for a peaceful future for both sides.
Wasim, if you were to say kind of, you know, okay, let's be optimistic about certain things, but what is the big issue for you that has to be resolved before there can be a lasting peace deal?
Well, I think first that to go into negotiation, there needs to be a time frame. There need to be it need to be in accordance with international laws. There are certain things that need to be that we need as Palestinians to be certain about, to be optimistic about these negotiations, and these two are on top of the list right now. The fact that the settlement expansion of the West Bank is killing our daily life and making it more harder than it is. Makes it harder for us to look into a brighter future for young Palestinians. More importantly for us, ending the conflict is related directly with ending the occupation and building the state. Building the state will mean that we'll start focusing on generating more jobs for the young people, young Palestinians. Will start focusing on core issues that we have right now in Palestine. And this is the kind of issue I work with every day with my organization in OneVoice. We try to empower the people every day and build consensus about how important it is, the two-state solution, and why they need to push their elected representatives toward ending this conflict in accordance with the things that I spoke about earlier.
Okay, Wasim, Masri, ran by Yoshafat. Maybe if I could leave the two of you in a room together for an hour, I reckon you could probably work something out between you. But there are some formidable obstacles ahead. Maybe we'll come back to you in the coming weeks to get your assessment of how these talks are going to unfold. I'm really grateful to both of you there in Jerusalem and Ramallah. Thank you very much indeed for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.